Hello, this is Professor Afrikadzata Deku, speaking to you from Spartanburg, South Carolina, and I'm here to share some of my Africa-centricity poems with you. And the title of this one is Who Are We? Who are we? Continental African government crusaders we are, leveling all the mountains of fear and doubt that weigh our people down. Africa-centric continental African federalists we are, born to set all hearts free from the claws of fear and resignation. Awoken and determined continental African nationalists we are destined to be, sailing on the sky of our continental African salvation for the key to the inner kingdom of our Creator, Africa Mau, within us. One continental African identity for all diaspora and continental African is a must for us all. One continental African nationality for all continental and diaspora African is inevitable. One continental African citizenship for all continental and diaspora African is here for us to claim. Our continental African divine miracle mission to implement for all to enjoy. No more invisible neo-colonial wars of self-ignorance and fragmentation to continue to turn sacred continental African sons and daughters of creation into dull mats for others to jubilate over. No more slave colonial identities to rob us of our continental African identity. No more slave colonial nationalities to deprive us of our continental African nationality. No more slave colonial citizenship to disconnect us from our continental African citizenship. No more slave colonial prison or plantation states without nations to rob us of our continental African state. No more slave colonial nation to deprive us of our continental African nation. No more slave colonial government to rob us of our continental African government. No more slave colonial democracies to deprive us of our continental African democracy. No more pro-status quo independence to rob us of our continental African independence. No more dependent development to deprive us of our continental African development. No more slave colonial languages to rob us of our continental African language. No more alien religions to rob us of our continental African religion of Africanity. No more slave and colonial education to deprive us of our continental African education. No more slave colonial ideologies to rob us of our continental African ideology of Africa-centricity or continental Africanism. We are the new continental African highway to the African paradise of our continental African self-discovery. We are the continental African freedom for our oppressed continental African masses. We are the fearless continental African tongues for those rendered speechless by fear. The continental African eyes for the blind. The continental African ears for the deaf. The continental African courage for the coward. The continental African laughter for the gloomy. The continental African riches for the impoverished. Continental African self-knowledge for the self-ignorant. Continental African food for the hungry. Air for the suffocating noses. Clothes for the naked. Freedom for the enslaved. Shelter for the homeless. Pride and dignity for the lost and the uprooted. Love is the cornerstone of our new continental African world order of United States of Africa. Determination is our inner wings of the eagle of the universe. Justice for all is the vision of our continental African action for all. Selflessness is the air for the nose of our new continental Africanness. Service to the people is the roof for our new continental African home for all the presently fragmented and scattered body of continental African children the world over. Africa-centric continental African power to the people is the oxygen for our continental African salvation for all. Ours is the might of total continental African victory in a warm bosom of mother bliss. Ours is the strength of the noble continental African cause that is fed and sustained by the breast of the universal law of inevitability. Our mighty superpower continental African government, or United States of Africa, welcomes gradually but surely all her scattered rivers back to a natural and divine source of ocean of pride and dignity for all. Continental African government advocates and fighters, we are not alone. We are the success of our great continental African Pharaoh Mena in us. We are the unquenchable fire of Marcus Garvey reborn through us. We are the self-sustained vision of Kwame Nkrumah that never dies. We are the courage of Sekou Touré, who is not afraid to say no to our mosquitoes. We are the proud, holy African martyr of Lumumba, who is not afraid to die for Africa. We are the perseverance of Anta Diop, the outside the boss professor. We are the African-centric truth of Rodney they don't want us to know about. We are the foresight of Fanon that they can no longer deny us. So whether they like it or not, the time for our liberation, mentally, spiritually, continentally, is here for us to claim and to liberate ourselves, because nobody else can do it for us except ourselves. To liberate ourselves, reclaim the richest continent on earth for our benefit, and we learn to start working together as brothers and sisters of the same continental African family, the same continental African nation, the same continental African republic, the same continental African government, which we shall call United States of Africa. If others can do it, we too can do it. So thank you very much, and if you are interested, join me and feel like-minded to achieve the impossible for our people. Only us, only Africans can save Africa, nobody else. Not their crowns, nor their charity, nor their pity, nor their leftovers, not their surpluses, politically, economically, socially. Only Africans can save Africans. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.